Okay, this is going to be a tutorial on how to attack multiple targets in a convoy at the same time using manual targeting only. And this is going to be a fairly long tutorial because of the complexity of the concepts I'm going to talk about. So you may want to get some coffee and a snack and sit back and relax. In the meantime, I'm going to hit maximum time compression. A convoy will be steaming by in a short while. Okay, got a radar contact, but it's not showing up on the map. Now, in this scenario, I am using map contacts enabled, but you don't need to. I usually don't, but it is easier for me for demonstrative purposes. I also have externals on, again, because it makes it easier to demonstrate certain concepts. So, let's wait until more of the convoy is inside of radar range, and then first thing we're going to do is start plotting as normal.
Bearing 5, 9, long range. Single contact. Bearing 5, 7, long range. Single contact. Bearing 6, 1, long range.
Okay, convoy in this case is a 3x3 box. And I'm going to pause here. Now, the first way of attacking multiple targets in a convoy simultaneously, and that's very important. You want to maximize the element of surprise so that the targets in the convoy do not start evading until it's too late, which could potentially foul your firing solution on one or more targets. So you want to hit multiple targets simultaneously or very close to simultaneously. Okay, so the easiest way is a zero gyro shot on multiple targets in a certain configuration. We're going to put a dummy here because there's one about there too. Okay. To demonstrate this concept, let's say their course is about that. Now, when you're shooting at zero gyro, if you're familiar with the concept, you know that range to targets becomes absolutely unimportant. As long as the torpedo and the target never change course and speed, range doesn't matter, assuming, you know, the torpedo can reach the target. I mean, within reason. You're not going to hit a target 7,000 yards away with an electric torpedo because its maximum range is 4,000 yards. But, okay, so let's suppose you're shooting from 90 degrees across the formation here. We'll just say from here, quick and dirty diagram, and the lead angle is going to be 14 degrees. So you could fire at target 1 when he's here, right when he crosses the zero bearing on your periscope. Target 2 would be this guy, right as he crosses the zero bearing on your periscope. And target 3 would be this guy as he crosses the zero bearing on your periscope. So you can attack all three in a column in this manner very easily. That being said, that's not necessarily the best attack that you can do. And remember, you may only get one. So, let's also consider another example, which is a 45-degree attack, where you can hit this target, and this target. And let's say in this scenario, the lead angle is going to be 9 degrees. So you shoot at this target when he's here, this target when he's here, and that target when he's here. Again, that's doable. But honestly, the angles and the way ships overlap may prevent you from doing that on the third target. You'll also have problems with the range, because as you can see, that's about absolute maximum electric range there. You know, throwing in a small safety factor so it doesn't just run out of juice right before you hit it. And that's a 1,500-yard shot on the closest ship. So it's doable, but again, maybe not optimum. So let's talk about the main focus of this video, which is going to be the more complex shots. And in this case, maybe we want to hit this target, and either that target or that target. There are two ways in order that you can use to make your torpedoes arrive at the impact points simultaneously. The first is target distance, which, firing across the columns, is how we will hit this target at the same time as this target and the same time as this target. The other way is target speed, torpedo speed. So, if you hit this target with a slow torpedo and this target with a fast torpedo, well, this target with slow torpedo first and this target with a fast torpedo second, the shorter runtime of the fast torpedo will give you time to enter the new settings you need into the TDC to shoot at this guy. And the greater the distance, the more time you will have. You know, the greater the distance, or the greater the distance discrepancy. So, let's work on the getting this all set up. So, for now, ideally, I think the best answer is to scout the target from several thousand yards away before you decide what targets you're going to attack and risk the boat. There is a slight chance, let's say they're there, and we'll say 5,000 yards maybe. So you could approach this contact from along this line and submerge, identify them all through the periscope, so you have a pretty good idea of what's where in the convoy and where the choice targets are. And that will influence your exact decisions on which targets you want to attack. Because again, you may not have a second opportunity to attack the convoy, either because of running out of torpedoes or damage to the sub. You may get killed. you know, there's a lot that can go wrong in war. So don't count on ever having a second attack. Always try and make your first as have as big of an impact as possible is my philosophy. But past that, for demonstration purposes, we're going to say I want to hit this target. No, we're going to say I want to hit this target, and this target. So, stupid cigarette keeps going out. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is start the plot normally. And in a real situation, you might have to do an end around. This tutorial is assuming you know how to use the TDC and, you know, plotting tools and etc. So there's Mark 1. I'm going to wait 5 minutes.
Single contact. Bearing. 5. 8. Long range.
There's a destroyer on the wing there.
Single contact. Bearing. 6. 3. Long range.
Okay, and there's Mark 2. That should have established their course and speed. 1,500 yards in 5 minutes is 9 knots. And their speed, or the course, make sure that's fairly accurate, yes. Their course in this scenario is 143. Okay, so I'm going to make a note of that. They're on heading 143. And their speed is 9 knots. Now let's talk briefly about submarine loadout. This can vary by mod, but in TMO 2.5, the Mark 14 slow setting is, in my experience, will be dodged if you shoot correctly. So the long-range shots with the Mark 14 on slow, I don't recommend them. If you're going to do this, the best weapon, in my opinion, is the Mark 18 torpedo, because it does not have a wake. Once you start shooting across columns with the Mark 14 and TMO, everybody's going to go evasive. You can only shoot the Mark 14 at something in the closest column. And it should be on fast speed. But since the Mark 18 does not have a wake, when you're shooting across columns, even though it has a lower speed, it's not going to tip anybody off. Everything will work out just fine. So my recommended loadout to attack 3 targets simultaneously is going to be Mark 18s in 4 tubes, 2 for each target, and a pair of Mark 14s for another target. So back to our concepts here. We're back to working this here. We're going to move to intercept this convoy.
Yes, sir.
We'll call that for now.
Yes, sir.
I've already called my targets. I want to hit this one and this one. These two will be 0 gyro shots with a Mark 18 torpedoes. And this one I will hit with Mark 14 torpedo on fast. Is my initial plan. So, one of the facts where I'm going to need to know is distance between contacts. 750 yards. I'm going to need a copy of their course, and it's going to need to be offset by 750 yards. And I'm going to need a third copy of their course, or a second copy of their course, which will be the line that we are going to travel down. We can go over here for now. We are going to attack at a 45-degree angle. You know what? Better do this up here. Sorry. Want that right on there if I can get it. Having a little bit of interface lag, so please forgive me if some things I'm doing a little slower than I probably normally would. Okay, so we're going to hit them at a 45-degree angle, which will give us 0 gyro shot, 0 gyro shot. And I'm going to attack the far target from 3,500 yards, which will throw in a little bit of wiggle room in case, you know, I misestimate the range a little bit. I don't want... It's embarrassing to fire a perfectly straight shot and the torpedo runs out of steam just before it hits the target. I've had that happen before. Okay, so we're going to adjust our navigation plot and come right down this line.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Returning to course, sir. Yes, sir.
so that's the basics of that part figured out. Now what we're going to need to do is figure out the timing of our attacks. And this is the tricky part. While we're at this real quick, hold on. That means we are going to need to turn to course 278 when it's time to attack. So I'll get that down real quick. Personally, I prefer to use lookup tables for angle solving for 0 gyro shots. You can use whatever method you want. 9 knot target, 45 degrees is 10-degree lead angle. So I'm going to make a note of that. I'll make that note up here. Okay, so now we need to figure out the timing. I need this copy. It's going to come over here. I'm going to need a 750-yard circle. And I am going to need yet another copy. Okay, there we go. So, first target will be the center of the center, or second target actually. The near 0 gyro shot will be the center of that. We will need a 45-degree angle measured out here. So that's our attack angle. 4, 5 right there. So the first target we fire at will be right there. And this is when we hit the targets, not when we fire at the targets. It will be at a range of 3,500 yards. So, like that. Hitting this target will be, I'm just going to use a circle because that's all overlapping crap. From the same position, pretty close to it anyways, not perfect. 2,400 yards, and target 3 will be right here. Which is a range of 1950 yards. So what we need next is the torpedo run times for all of these ranges. So my preferred method is to use a lookup table. You can use a calculator, you can do whatever you want. Mark 18 torpedo going to 3,500 yards. Okay, Mark 18 torpedo, 3,500 yards is 215 second run time. Okay, Mark 18 torpedo going to 2,400 yards. What's that second range there? I forget. Yeah, 2,400 yards. Oh, that other number's for the line. Okay. So, 2,400 yards, Mark 18 torpedo is 147 seconds. One, 4, 7. Mark 14 torpedo on fast. 1,950 yards is 75 seconds. Now, on paper, we don't really need this number, 147 seconds, for this attack, except for one thing. We need to be sure that our attack plan leaves us enough time to enter the numbers we need for this guy, which would be 147 minus 75. 72 seconds is plenty of time. I find 35 seconds to be tight, 45 seconds to be, easily, to be doable comfortably, and longer to be pretty easy. But we're going to have 75 seconds between this attack and this attack. But what we really need to know is time from the first torpedo fired to the 5th torpedo fired, which is 215 minus 75 as a 140 second difference in runtime, which is 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That number is a little bit rough, because this will not be a zero gyro shot. There's going to be some initial torpedo acceleration that's got to be taken into account. And if you don't stop in the water, you'll be drifting towards them a little bit, so the runtime will be a little bit shorter there. But I find it's close enough. Now, next thing we need to know is, with a 10-degree lead angle, right there, this target will be here when I shoot at him, and this target will be here when I shoot at him. I know that in order to turn a Balo class sub, which is our current sub, 45 degrees, it takes 2 minutes and 25 seconds. So, in 2 minutes and 25 seconds, a 9 knot target will travel 2 minutes, 25, 750 some yards. So, when target 1 is here, is when we need to turn. We are going to need another copy of target's course. And it needs to go right through our firing position. So, when the target is at here, which is 30 degrees to port, we need to begin our turn. So, when he is at bearing 330, we will turn to course 278 and prepare to fire on a 10 degree, on bearing 10 degrees. And then, when this target crosses bearing 10 degrees, we will fire on him. Then we will quickly enter the data we need into the TDC, and when 2 minutes and 20 seconds have passed from the initial torpedo, we will fire at this target. Between firing at this target and this target, I find it best to turn into this target to reduce the gyro angle. The effect is very slight, but you know. So, now that we've got this all figured out, let's set up the TDC to do the work. We need all of this stuff open. Start by setting up the torpedoes, high speed, low, 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 low. Depths. Five, 6. Okay, our torpedoes are basically ready to fire. We will fire tubes 3 and 4 at target 1, 5 and 6 at target 2, 1 and 2 at target 3. We are going to fire at 10 degrees. Target speed is 9 knots. This is fairly similar to one of Rockin' Robin's approaches to the problem. We will be firing at a target that is 45 degrees from 0. At 10 degrees, that will be 35. And for range, I just like to enter, for these zero gyro type shots, I just like to enter 3,500. Okay, we will check to make sure our course is 143, is that right? Yes, 143. Since we haven't turned to proper course yet, the TDC is wrong, but everything should be set up. If you look at the attack map, this is pretty close to 0. It looks like I could stand to move this just a little bit like that. There we go. That's better. So, from here, we wait. Get into attack position. Dive. We've got our attack all figured out.
Single contact. Bearing. 4, 7. Long range.
Okay, we're in the pipe, so I'm going to order ahead 1/3, periscope depth. I don't need the watch anymore. Now obviously, with map contacts off, it would take you longer to figure out, you know, a good, accurate baseline for their course. So that means you're going to be doing some fine-tuning throughout the procedure, but for demonstration purposes, we're just doing without. You can see that the crew can't quite steer the course that I want for whatever reason. That's always annoyed me.
Degrees to starboard. Yes, sir.
So we'll get back onto the line.
Current depth 40.
Yes, sir. 1. Degrees to port. Yes, sir. 0.
There we go.
Contact. Merchant. Closing. Bearing. 3-4 knots. Long range.
Just waiting for targets to close. And let's take a look at the convoy real quick, since we're picking them up on hydrophone. I don't actually see their smoke yet. Not with no zoom anyways. But we can make use of the fixed camera. Unfortunately, it kind of sucks for what I'm trying to do. We'll just wait a short while.
Contact. Merchant. Closing. Bearing. 3-5-4. Long range. Contact.
Waiting, waiting, more waiting.
Bearing. 3-5-4. Long range. Contact. Merchant.
I will probably cut the video a little bit here,
1. Long range.
because it's just a waiting game at this stage.
Contact. Merchant. Closing. Bearing. 3-5-1. Long range. Contact. Warship. Closing. Bearing. 3-5 knots. Long range.
Here's a hint.
Merchant.
When you're closing,
Bearing. 3-4.
something I like to do is I don't like to use time compression over, I would say, 8x inside of a range of, you know, 6,000 yards or so. I find it's the AI to be kind of iffy there. Sometimes it seems like they just automatically detect you.
Closing.
So what I'll do is I'll draw a 6,000 yard circle. And you know that the closest target is on whatever bearing. And you know his track is about here. So you could figure to be 6,000 yards from you, he has to be on bearing 343.
Closing. Bearing.
Well, I'd say round for safety and call it 345. But we got a lot more contacts on sonar now, so let's take a look at this convoy. Okay, this is the ship rear column, or the last ship in the closest column. We're not hitting him. Cycle the other way, I think. No. No. Who is this? That is last ship column, middle column, right? No, it isn't. That's the middle ship. Okay, and that is a Kitron Maru. Was it? Yes, Kitron Maru, 6,000 tons. So we're going to hit him. No, actually, he's not one of the ones I called.
Warship. Closing.
If this was an actual scenario, I would be tempted to adjust right now, because that's just a Toy Maru back there. And yeah, 1,700 tons, not very good. But we're going to commit for demonstration purposes. And those look like a pair of Akita Marus. Looks like a trio of Akita Marus on that lane.
Contact. Merchant.
So
Closing.
we're going to hit
3-5.
him
Long range.
and him with 0 gyro shots. And then I'm going to hit him with Mark 14 torpedoes on fast. Okay, so I'm going to cut the video here until we're closer to the target. Okay, you know what? I am actually going to recompute very quickly what we need to do. A lot of our attack is going to remain unchanged, but I really want to hit that bigger passenger ship in the middle rather than the tiny passenger ship in the rear. So let's take a quick look at them. So our firing solution, if it works, is going to be to hit this guy and this guy with 0 gyro shots, and we will then hit this guy with the Mark 14s on fast. So this part of the firing solution remains unchanged. The only thing that's going to change is that we're going to hit this guy instead. Just 3,000 yards with Mark 14s on fast is 116 seconds. So let me make a note of that real quick. 116. So we need to check if we can go from 147 to 116 fast enough. So that's 147 minus 116, 31 seconds. Tight but doable. The next thing we need to know is if we can, or how much time we'll have elapsed between shot 1 and shot 5. So 215 minus 116 is 99 seconds. So that is 1 minute and 39 seconds. We'll call it 140. So make the adjustment. 1 minute and 40 seconds. As you can see, targets are starting to get closer. We're going to up scope, take a look. You know, if you want, you can make a good portion of this leg at a much deeper depth. I'm just not seeing a need to because the targets are, the escort's kind of far away, the point escort. We can see the targets. Big passenger liner there. Well, kind of medium passenger liner. Kitchener Maru, 6,000 tons. Now, if I had recon this beforehand, let's take a look here real quick. Now, Busan Maru is about 5,000 tons. I'm going to go to external so I can actually see the rear ships because they're not rendered. So that Busan Maru out there is about 5,000 tons. I forget its exact. That is a, I want to say Bio Maru, I think 8,000. Let's take a look real quick. Yeah, Bio Maru 5,000. Busan, I know I passed it earlier, sorry. about 5,000. The Haruna is tiny. 1,500, not really worth the effort. That's an Akita. I think 5,000 tons on Akita. Now 4,000. Okay, so probably the targets I would want to hit the most would be the center one. And just by dumb luck, because I haven't reconned it, probably the best combo would be to hit those two Akitas as well. I could also see an argument for hitting this target and this target with 0 gyro shots. You know, depending on if you prioritize tankers, maybe you would want to hit these three. I could also see a fairly strong argument for hitting the lead three. But in general, unless that side was wide open, I probably would not want to attack from this side and hit that Haruna Maru. I'd want my initial attack to have as much tonnage as possible. So, back to waiting. Point can is pretty close to 330. And I'm probably going to cut the video until, you know, at least he's at 330. Maybe this guy. So I can tell from the bearing lines that Busen Maru is at about 330 now, I think. I'm going to take a look. And it won't be long at all until we need to turn to attack. Yeah, there's Busen Maru. And when he is at 330 is when we turn. As you can see, it's only about 8 degrees to go. We need to ID this target so that way when the time comes we can enter him into the TDC really quickly. There's no need to enter him or him at all because I'm not going to use those functions of the TDC. Let's reset this real quick. Bearing 10. This is a little wrong. It can be so finicky to get it exactly where you need it. Okay. Soon, real soon. About 6 degrees to go. And when we turn, we're going to open the doors and set everything up. Or, you know, make sure everything's set up correctly. Something that may happen is because target 1 is your baseline for firing at target 3, depending on where exactly they are in formation. You know, they don't keep perfect formation. The timing on target 2 may be a little bit off, but hopefully it's not enough to matter. It usually isn't. Okay. Just 4 more degrees to go. Don't neglect that it's possible to hit. Let's see. Here's our box. It might be possible to hit, say, this target, and then one of the close targets. Or that target, and then maybe this one or that one. Almost time to turn. So close. And remember, we are going to turn onto course 278. Okay, hard to port. Turning to attack.
Hard to port. Yes, sir. Hard to port.
Oh, something I like to do is use the scope that I'm not actually using. Well, I'm going to reset this one to make sure that torpedo is running where I'm aiming. But use the scope I'm not going to use for the heading to view command, because that lets you know for sure if you're in the right heading in actual degrees. The AI doesn't like to turn to a specific heading, as you probably know if you're experienced with the game at all. Personally, I think that's really annoying. So I'm going to kick up the time acceleration a little bit here. Course was 278. Yes, 278. We're also going to open all torpedo tube doors. We will also take the opportunity to make sure that our torpedoes are set correctly. Yes, 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 yes. Good, good. Okay. We're just waiting for course 278. Now, my technique is not to let the AI steer to course, because they taper off the turn rate real severely. I got a little distracted, so I think I overturned there. Yeah, 276. So hard to port, or hard to starboard. Rudder 0. New course. That's probably close enough, regardless. Up scope. Going to reduce speed to 1 knot. Oh. Got a little bit off there. Should have given myself a little more leeway just in case of an accident like that. Learn from the mistake. I do not believe it will change my firing solution significantly, so I'm just going to run with it. Okay. Fire tube 3. Fire tube 4. And we're waiting for this target to cross the border, or the barrier. And we will need to remember 1 minute 40 seconds. And tube 5. And tube 6. Okay, values are entered into the TDC. Just waiting. Also going to dive, fire. I fired a couple seconds late, but that is okay. So now we've got a bit of a wait. The initial runtime was 215 seconds. Going to turn a little bit.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to collide with the wreckage.
Yes, sir.
That's always embarrassing.
5. Yes, sir. New course. 3, 0, 0. Current depth 1, 0. Yes, sir.
Gonna go to externals
3, 0, 0.
and watch what happens.
Torpedo impact.
So target 2 just broke up very violently. There's target 1 getting hit.
Current depth 1, 4, 0. Torpedo impact.
Target 3 getting hit.
Torpedo impact.
2 hits on target 3. And it looks like I missed 1 torpedo. I don't think that's bad shooting at all.
Current depth 1, 6, 0.
We would have to wait and see if target 1 actually sinks. I sorted at it, but I hit him dead center. That other torpedo must have just barely missed him. Anyways, that probably is going to kill his engines, and I can finish him off at my leisure later. So I hope that this has been a informative tutorial, and if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Current depth 2, 0, 0. Torpedo missed, sir.
This is sort of an addendum for anybody who's curious about the aftermath of this attack. You can see we got a couple of destroyers behind me. They dropped some depth charges, but never got too close, just weak pings. And that passenger liner is dead in the water. He's several thousand yards distant. I did screw up the audio recording for this segment of this video, so what I'm saying right now isn't live. But as you can see, I'm preparing for a zero gyro shot from the stern tubes. Low speed setting, Mark 14, against a stationary target. It's a pretty easy shot. You can see here I'm just demonstrating that I am in range. 4,600 yards. And turning the boat.
Yes, sir. Rudder, 0.
Yes, sir. 0.
And here I'm gonna fine tune where exactly I'm aiming.
Yes, sir. Degrees to starboard.
Yes, sir. Rudder, 5 degrees to port. Yes, sir. Rudder, 0.
Yes, sir. 0.
See there, I overdid it a little bit for my tastes.
Yes, sir.
So I bring it back to the right,
Degrees to starboard. Rudder,
Yes, sir.
1 degrees to starboard.
just a little bit.
Yes, sir. Rudder, go. Firing to 1.
And then I dive.
Yes, sir. New depth. 4, 0. Torpedo in the water. Yes, sir. 4.
Given the range and slow speed of the Mark 14 on slow, this is going to be a fairly long run time.
Current depth. 1, 0.
You can see those destroyers over there depth charging me, even though they're not close.
Current depth.
Well, they're escorts, not destroyers, but
Current depth. 1, 6, 0. Current depth. 1, 8, 0. Current depth. 2, 0, 0. Current depth. 2, 2, 0. Yes, sir. New course. 3, 2, 5.
Yes, sir. New course. 3, 2, 5.
Current depth. 2, 4, 0. Current depth.
Passing
2,
thermal
6,
layer.
0. Current depth. 2, 8, 0. Current depth. 3, 0, 0. Current depth. 3, 2, 0. Current depth. 3, 4, 0.
there it is.
Current depth. 3, 6, 0.
So, just gonna see if he's gonna sink.
0.
Considering he's already dead in the water, second torpedo hit is
Bearing
very unlikely to be survivable.
0, 4.
And you can see starting to list. Yeah, listing, going down by the stern a little bit.
4, 0, 0.
And his stern's starting to slip under, so there that is. 7 torpedoes fired, 6 hits. I think that's around an 85% hit rate. So that's the end, and have a good day.